All right. It has been a while, has it not? Well, I got everything going on out my window. I figured I'd record during it because there's a pandemic and it's not fun at all. Social distancing. You are listening to SASS, Starseeds, Angels, SAVANT Syndrome, with your host, the Mystic Man. It has been a while. It's been a long time. I know, I'm sorry. I'm always specifically sorry and thankful and grateful and in many times a little bit shy about it, but thank you to my French listeners. I don't know why, but my stats show that France loves my show. Specifically France. Like 40 something percent of my listeners are from France. I got, I think, good 20% US, Mexico, Canada, Australia, Russia, but most are in France. Out of the whole world. I don't know why. It's awesome though. Thank you very much for appreciating me. I had a conversation with a very cool person. And it was a bit ago, but I will be playing that for the show. Because I've been so busy, I haven't been able to use it for a show, even though we did record. And, oh yes, I do live in the ghetto. Yep, you're listening to me recording from San Jose, Northern California, Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. I am the southern part of the Bay, 408 area code. And we don't really have much to associate by, or to remind anybody what San Jose is about. I think, we were on a 007 movie a long time ago. Yeah. The plot was about the underground caverns underneath San Jose. And yes, this whole place is riddled with caverns. I know all of the conspiracy theorists will probably be like, reptilians, U.S. government. And heck, you're probably right. I don't know. I do know that there is a, quote, abandoned, end quote, Air Force base up in the mountains on the south side of San Jose, right behind Mount Amunum. Yes, it's called Amunum, Mount Amunum. And yeah, there's a abandoned Air Force base. Actually, it might really be abandoned now. I don't know. But once upon a time, I went up there with some friends because, I was over at my friend's apartment right here in the ghetto. And we were doing ghetto things, like dudes. And then his friends come through, and they're all panicking, right? They go, oh, we just saw a UFO. And me and my friend Joe, was his name, we're like, bullshit. Oh, this show's explicit, mind you. So I do swear. I live in the ghetto. What do you expect? San Jose, Bay Area. what up? And so yeah, we're telling them that they're full of shit, and they're like tripping out. Like, no, fuck that. We'll go back. Let's go back. And we're like, yeah, oh yeah, heck yeah. We want to see a UFO. And so we all mobbed up there. And, well, you'll hear the rest of that story right after this song. Thanks for listening in. That was Man from Mars by Sunbreak. And it was all about me, even though there were no words. That's because there's no words when you're talking about the man from Mars. I'm kidding, actually, it's probably my dad. You see, I'm not from Mars, I'm from Uranus. In the astrological sense, Edgar Casey explained that in astrology, now I don't know if you know how to read a chart, but astrology is not just your sun sign, by the way. If you're new to that. Well, in astrology, Edgar Casey, the late prophet from the turn of the century, the early 1900s, he explained it as that the planet that was at your midheaven being the highest point in the sky when you were born, is the planet that you last went to before coming to Earth. As in that we go through all of the planet cycles, in and out. And the Greeks put it that way too. When talking about in reaching the Godhead, it was called. The Godhead would be the apex after that. The apex of, going to God. In Egyptology, it would be, Egyptian mythology, it would be, I don't remember the name of the underworld that they had, but I remember the elements. It would be basically going to Anubis, and I believe somebody else, I can't remember who, but to weigh your heart against the golden feather of something, I can't remember, but that gives you incentive to look it up. It's a very cool story. I would suggest listening to a audio or reading about the storyline of Set Osiris and his father Osiris. Cool story, very funny too. But it was I believe it was a Sumerian story originally, actually. And very interesting stuff. But that storyline is very much the same. In any case, for me, my midheaven was Uranus. 0.00 degree. People that have that aspect, well, Uranus at midheaven would be Jim Carrey, and who else was it? Bjork. Yes, Bjork. That's right. I'm one of those ones. So if you mix together Jim Carrey and Bjork, then you kind of get the energy that I also am. And yeah, but I was not from Mars, no. We're not from any of those planets specifically, I don't believe. But we do travel through them. And the planet most aligned to me is Uranus. But my dad is Mars. And he's very masculine in many ways. He doesn't cry. Sometimes he does, actually. I mean, in very deep moments. But he's a Taurus and a male. And Mars at midheaven. Yeah. And he had a hard, tough life after me and Keith were born. Keith being my brother, obviously. So he definitely had to be very strong. Mars and Pisces too. Next up, we have a conversation, a chat, and I didn't know. I didn't know if I was gonna play this one because well, it was really more of a personal chat. Like I only used this process because I didn't have the audio feature on Messenger. I had undownloaded Messenger from my phone to try the lightweight app, and it sucked. So at the time, I used this app's process, and yeah, we just recorded just in case, Excuse me. And mm, yeah, well, we chatted up and talked about a lot of interesting stuff, and here it is. Oh, wait, I should mention. What it was she asked me a question about a very, very about a moment in time when I went through a lot of crap spiritually, an awakening for me at least, and it was a very weird moment. It made me have to question reality and what is real a lot. And it might sound insane to you, and that's good. Keep that practicality. Keep it. But if you have too much of that, maybe loosen up a bit in the practicality area. Because life is not so solid as you think. The world is not so solid as you think. Things are malleable in reality, and such is consciousness. Amen. Well, here it is. Jade Zen, special guest. Business being the High Priestess. Find her on Instagram, Facebook, and say hi. Okay, so we were talking about an event that happened to where I wanted to forget.
Yeah.
To me, it was it was an accidental awakening, as in I wasn't prepared. I guess the universe initiated me, but I did not feel like it was like I was ready at all.
Mm.
Um, and it happened very simply. It was very simple. It was just a friend telling me that it it hurts to be questioned a lot. You know,
Yeah.
to have somebody lack faith in you and question you.
I agree
And
with that. Yeah.
I totally empathized, and and then I looked and I saw that everything in my life that I was afraid of was basically me causing a causing pain to the universe.
So let me ask you this. When you say people questioning, do you mean like people judging questioning or people curious questioning?
Oh, I mean, fearful,
Fear
like
based.
judging.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fear itself is like a blame, and I saw that as elemental. Every single fear, every single um, judgment, it's like saying to the universe, saying to God, if you will, saying to ourselves, because we are connected to that, saying that we're not connected, and saying that we separate from that, and
Yeah.
it hurts. It causes a rift. It hurts.
Totally. I think a lot of that has to do with us being suppressed of a lot of knowledge about ourselves for such a long time that people like the baseline frequency that we've operated on as a species for a very long time is fear. And
Mm-hmm.
that's based off of the separation in itself that happened, right? Where man separated away from God, source, creator, whatever you want to call it. So I think that that's the whole part of the awakening process, where it's like, we run into, I don't know about you, and sorry if I'm like kind of going off tangent, but
No, not at all.
I feel like a lot of us, right, who are on this path of like waking up, or it's like a lot of us that are on this like deep path of trying to figure out life, like on the spiritual path, we all kind of had like these situations where we felt kind of like misfits, or we felt like we didn't belong, you know, or that people didn't understand us. Like we're trying to resonate with people or relate to other people, but we're just too deep for them, where they don't understand or they don't want to understand a lot of the things that we question about life. And that, I mean, I'm speaking for myself, so maybe I'm projecting a little bit here, but I think a lot of people operate naturally out of fear because they don't know anything outside of that, right?
Yeah.
Sorry,
That
I'm
was
talking
very
much.
on point. I didn't think that was projection at all, really. I think that you
Yeah.
spoke for a lot of us.
Well, I feel like a lot of us go through similar experiences. Like our storylines might be different, right? But the emotions, the feelings that we get in certain situations, like abandonment, feeling misunderstood, feeling alienated, like a lot of the stuff that we go through are all similar feelings and emotions. It's just that the stories are different, or the characters and the roles that they play are different.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I think we're all kind of like on the same wavelength of things need to change, you know?
It's been a long time since I've felt like um because even in the spiritual movement, really, they've kind of, you know, put me as the black sheep or the white crow or what have you. And
You're the rainbow sheep. That's what I call it.
there you go. Yeah. Heck yeah. I love that. Yes, very much.
Yeah.
But, it sucked because I had friends in the beginning, and then like they really they really went on with their own kind of direction, and
Yeah.
I didn't uh I didn't see it as uh as authentic. I guess they wanted to
Oh,
work
I'm
a
with you.
capitalistic way, and it was really I don't know how to explain it.
Oh, I completely resonate. Like my life in New York, I feel like that was a different life. I feel like this sounds pretty like morbid, but I feel like I've died many times in this life and have been reborn.
Yeah.
And very Platonian, right? So like I've had like close friends that like about 2 years ago, I had to like literally walk away from a group of friends that I was friends with for over 10 years. And they were all still back in New York. And like when I was telling you about my trip to the Philippines.
Yeah.
When I went to the Philippines, this was like August of 2016. And that trip changed everything because that's when I read the book. I don't know if you've ever read the Celestine Prophecy.
Yeah, of
Oh
course.
my God. It
Probably
completely
sometime
like,
too around
yeah.
then, before then, but
Oh
yeah.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So I read that book, and like I was reading that book while being in the Philippines, and I was just taking in like this whole other world, you know, like, and just feeling like I'm living this lie. Like I'm going back to this great job that everyone claims, like, oh, you know, you're in New York City and like life is great, but I wasn't feeling that. And so I just um I felt like unfulfilled, and I felt depressed, and I felt like there's got to be more to life than this, you know, 1 week of vacation that I really needed.
Wow.
Um, yeah, but all of my friends, like you were just saying, like all of my friends are all about like the materialistic, like Kim Kardashian's lifestyle, right? Like,
Oh no.
superficial, like just the capitalistic stuff that you're talking about, like keeping up with the.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I felt like I was like, I don't know, I felt like I was living a double life, like being around them, like, it was just so superficial and it wasn't me. And I felt like I was pretending to be something that I wasn't. And
Yeah.
that's why I decided to leave New York, because no one understood me there. No one understood anything that I was talking about. Like everyone just thought that I was making up problems, or that I was too emotional.
Oh no, yeah, I get that sometimes too.
Yeah. Or water signs also. But,
Right.
um,
It's
yeah.
funny though. You kind of had it opposite from me, a little tiny bit. I mean, I wouldn't say that I'm striving to go to like the whole Kardashian kind of like facade. No, not at all. But I mean, like from my childhood though, that it would be a little bit opposite. I started off in a small island and
Mm-hmm.
like small town, and
Mm-hmm.
I used to go and look at the sunset. I'm sorry, at the beach and like just wonder what was out there, and like I wished for more,
See, I'm
but like
so intrigued by that because I don't know. I went to Nicaragua where my cousin was living and I was just like, this is the most simple life. Like everything you need is here and it's connected to nature. So I'm surprised, but I guess the grass is always greener, right?
it was. I mean, I think that maybe I didn't appreciate everything as much as I should have though.
So why the Bay Area?
Oh, for me, I had family here. I mean, I didn't really get sent here by my choice, really.
I have
It's
cousins out there
long,
too. I have never visited.
you know.
So, yeah.
Sorry.
I said I have cousins out there too, but I've never met them.
Oh, you got to come
They're
on.
like
It's
distant.
fun.
They're like my mom's cousins, and she hasn't seen them since she moved here when she was 16 years old.
Oh, well, it's a nice place to visit before it falls into the ocean.
I I don't know how soon that's going to be. What are you going to do as a backup plan if that happens?
Well, like just do as we did in Hawaii and like swim it. No.
What you do? Yeah, that's really
No,
fun.
I don't know. I'm hoping that I will help people,
Yeah.
you know,
Uh,
and the best I can, really.
mhm.
I think that I specifically should be here for when that happens because I've got a kind of weird nature to me. Like when something like really horrible happens and how everybody kind of stands still, like I
Flight.
don't have that.
Yeah.
I specifically take action, and like it's always been like that. So I feel like I should be here for that.
It's like the fight, flight, and freeze syndrome.
Yeah.
That's good.
Um,
That's really good. I'm more of a freezer.
it can be a good thing sometimes. What do they say? A man drowning, um, if he thrashes about, he'll drown faster. But if he just relaxes, he'll float to
Yeah.
the top.
hmm Um, yeah, I mean, I lived through 9/11, but I was 12 at the time. So,
Oh wow, that's right. Huh?
yeah.
How was that? That is
Um,
wow.
yeah, that was definitely an experience. I mean, I think that we're always placed in I feel like looking back now, like I was meant to live through those times in New York City because it helped kind of navigate my path to where I am today.
Yeah.
I was like in the seventh grade and we were in class, and I remember like I didn't really
Oh,
know what was
wow.
going on. And um, our window actually overlooked the New York skyline. So we saw
Oh my God.
all the smoke and everything that was happening. And then me and my brother, thankfully, were in the same school at the time. So my dad came. It was my mother's birthday too. She's 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So my dad picked us up from
Yay.
school, and my dad he was a correction officer. And
Mhm.
um, I had a friend in elementary school whose mother passed away in 9/11. Other than that, like thankfully, like no one that I really knew were affected.
Mhm.
my uncle was supposed to go into the city that day for work, and I think he like ended up not going. But
Wow, lucky, yeah.
yeah, but I mean, it's kind of it's so weird how the universe like just like everything's always connected because in my adult life, when I was working in Manhattan, I actually worked near the World Trade Center. So I was talking to people like who had been working there for years, you know, like since 9/11, and they were telling me about their experiences and what they went through. And my dad, like, he volunteered to clean up. Him and like a lot of the other like city workers would go and help because I mean, it took months and months and months for them to. You could smell like the devastation, like the burning and everything like that. And my dad took me and my family to go see, like, not in a morbid way, but he wanted us to like just see what it, you know, this was like a momentous time in history, like to pay.
Right.
And I just remember like seeing all these like missing person flyers on this huge wall, like all these people that were just missing. And
Yeah.
there were like shoes in the rubble, you know, people's shoes, like people's stuff, like just like random like papers, like I don't know, just like all these things that were like still there. And then my dad ended up getting sick. And
Oh,
he
man.
passed away in 2010, but he had like this
Oh, I'm sorry.
cancer. And we think that it's related to 9/11 because a lot of people got sick around the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely an emotional experience. I remember like you know, we were young, you're about what year a year older than me. So like we were young at the time. And I just remember thinking like I want to go to war and I want to enroll in the Marines and like do something about this,
Yeah.
you know, but what a wrong way to go about it. Like fighting isn't really the answer. And plus, I learned later on all the real stuff that happened with 9/11 because it's not what we're told.
Yeah.
So,
I can understand though. I mean, that was your city, and that's your culture, that's your
oh,
family, you know.
I totally hit home, you know, and this is why the spiritual awakening stuff is so important to me too, because it's like a lot of people lost their lives and were lied to about what really occurred. And all of this was actually over money. You know, it wasn't
Yeah.
what we thought it was. And they made it seem like it was this huge attack, and people were so upset, and people's lives were claimed because of greed. So, um, yeah, for me, it definitely like sparked something at a young age, you know, to try to get these answers to why. Why?
I bet. I bet. You definitely have the researchers and reporter journalism style like attitude about things.
Well, I have Chiron. If we want to talk astrology, I have Chiron and the moon both in my third house. So
Oh,
there's an emotional connection to how I communicate, also, you know, that empathy and relating and all that. So,
yeah.
yeah. But that was my big, you know, like, I mean, I don't think I was awakened at the time, but it was still like very eye opening. And then we also had like Hurricane Sandy, which was pretty bad too, but nowhere near compared to 9/11. So
Yeah.
you like, yeah, I totally understand the feeling the need to, you know, during a traumatic time, be there for the people and hold space for them. And so if this were to happen in California, and hopefully it doesn't, right? Like, but if it were to, I do think that you're meant to be where you are because you are that conduit that helps people, you know?
Oh, yeah. I figure irony is the face of God, and I am terrified of earthquakes.
Are
So
you?
it's the one thing I don't like at all is
Okay, so
earthquakes. And so it's funny. I of course would have to be here.
well, we all have to face our fears,
Right.
right? Um,
Yeah.
have you lived
Hmm.
through earthquakes before? Because I don't think I ever have, to be honest.
Oh yeah, you know San Jose. Like our football team is the Earthquakes.
Oh, there you go.
San Jose Earthquakes, and well for the college, and yeah, you know we have a lot here. It's on the fault line. Actually, there was a 007 James Bond enemy, bad guy who like uh he made some kind of like underground facility. It was based in San Jose
Oh.
for the movie, and because there's like caverns and stuff.
Yes, I'm
Neat,
glad you
but
know about that. There's underground stuff.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, that's like the rabbit
Oh
hole that
yeah.
never
Uh-huh.
ends.
I've heard about that stuff. So yeah.
Right, you know. But no, yeah. I wanted to ask you though about 9/11 actually, because didn't that have so much about it? Like there was the
Oh my
Simpsons thing
God.
about it. There was like a lot of Mandela effects
Yeah.
too. Like, are those all
So
true?
The Simpsons, I love that you brought that up because I was just talking about this the other day with someone. I don't know who they hired on their team at The Simpsons, but there's definitely someone who's like a fortune teller or can see the future because The Simpsons has captured a lot of events that have actually happened, right?
I've heard
Which is
that,
pretty
right?
gnarly. Yeah, like Trump winning presidency, and they predicted apparently the coronavirus was part of this one of the.
Not. Oh,
That's
go
what I've heard. I
figure.
don't know. They predicted Kobe Bryant, right? So like things that they've been
Oh,
able to tell in that show, it's like, what do they have some sort of time capsule where like? But back to your question about 9/11, um, there, I don't even know where to begin with that. Like, well, I'm sure. Have you ever watched Zeitgeist, the movie? Okay.
yeah, of
So
course.
all that stuff, right, that went on behind the scenes that they were planning. And then they found like a lot of archaic things that were buried underground, actually, underneath the World Trade. So like they found like ships, what do you call that? Like voyage ships from like the 1600s under. Yeah, and they found like
What?
all these like capsules. I guess they are time capsules, like of things that were preserved that no one even knew about, and they were from like the early days of the exploration days, which is pretty crazy. Um,
What?
but yeah, like there was a building that went down, and it wasn't even part of the airplanes hit. Like I don't know, there's just all these like
Oh yeah, I heard about that,
yeah,
right? There's the third
the
building or
third building
something,
that
right?
went down, and it was like it defied the laws of physics, right? Because it's like if an airplane crashed, first of all, if an airplane crashed in at that speed and that height, it wouldn't have caused an entire building to like domino, like crumble or collapse the way that it did. But then this other building also went down, and it was like it defied just science in that point, and that's why people thought like, okay, this had to be an underground explosion, for the building to crumble or collapse the way that it did.
Hmm.
um what other questions do you have on 9/11? I feel like I didn't answer all.
Oh yeah, no. The other one was just touching on the Mandela effects that they've talked about.
The Mandela effects, I don't know if I heard so much about that related to 9/11, but in general, like there's been a lot of, when there are Mandela effects, it's like they're like resets, they're like timeline changes essentially. um, so for 9/11, we entered the chaos timeline, right? Which is what Ed Casey predicted was going to happen for the future of humanity. And actually, up until December of 2019, so this last December, we have been operating on this like end of the world timeline. And so there's this fight, there's a spiritual warfare right now between the dark and the light, right? And there is one side that wanted to keep us on this like end of the world timeline where like there was going to be all this mass destruction. Like I don't know if you've seen like Ed Casey's like map of what the United States would look like.
Yeah, yeah, I believe the Navy
The
adopted
devastation
it.
of everything pretty much except for like a couple of states. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
from what I hear, and I don't know, like these are different sources that I'm finding, so I couldn't confirm 100%, but apparently we created our own Mandela effect come January, where
Oh
we
wow.
got out of the chaos timeline, and now we're on the higher timeline of the light side. So it's like we were able to save like millions of people by switching over to this higher timeline. And that's why like healing is so important. That's why like being authentic, being true to yourself, you know, being pure energy, like doing right, doing good by people, living in integrity, all of that is what keeps us operating out of this higher frequency. There's a Hopi prophecy. I'll send you the link, but there's a Hopi prophecy where this elderly Native American man had talked about these writings on a rock. And the writings on the rock, I don't know how they appeared there or who wrote them, but he basically said that the darker forces or the elite, right, the capitalists that want this world to run it into the ground, the rock had shown like the end of world times. And then over some time he went back to the rock and then saw that like there were new writings on the rock that showed that we were actually anchoring into, I guess, freedom. I don't know what you would call it, but like we were saved. I have to find it and show it to you. Incredible.
That's
like
awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I think it could have been a lot worse right now, the state that we're in, but even March right now, there's a lot of madness going on and chaos. And you might hear my dog, sorry if he's like making sounds, but March astrologically too, right? Because the planets are all cyclical and astrology itself is like cyclical. So we revisit like periods of history over and over again, you know, with certain transits. And so like,
that's a good way to put it. That's
yeah,
true.
a lot of 9/11, we're seeing Zach, sorry, it's my dog. We're
Well, that's fine. No, dogs are definitely allowed. I have my cat always when I
Oh
record
yeah,
my show.
he likes to
Always
be the
meow.
star of the show and like mess up my recording.
That's right
So,
on.
but I guess what I was saying was like, there's a lot of indicators in the astrology right now of where we're living in multiple different periods of history at the same time. So it's like, yeah,
What?
financial crisis, like Jupiter in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn. There's a lot of similarity back to the financial crisis that we had in 2008. We're seeing a little bit of the dark ages too, with all this Saturn and Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. That was like the 1200s when all this really started, right? All this like slavery type living, hierarchical.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm like a bunch of stuff at
Yeah.
you, but like, I'm totally getting off topic.
No. This is like all of it is totally on
Yeah,
topic, you know?
it's just I'm so intrigued by this stuff. Like I love connecting spirit and science together, right? Like this is like the left brain and the right brain logic and
Oh wow. You know that was a prophecy by Edgar Casey too. And you know he
what
said
did
what
he
he said
say?
about
I
that?
don't know.
He said that world peace would come when mankind can marry I don't know if he said marries or he says combines. I
Mhm.
can't remember exactly the word he used, but he said something like marries the religion and
Yes, it
science
is. You need both.
uh, worldwide,
Yeah.
and then yeah, and it's totally I love that too, and I totally am about it. So
Mm-hmm.
amen.
Mm-hmm. Because it's like it's the yin and yang energy, right? Like the masculine, feminine energy. It's the balance between two realms, two worlds, spirit and science. They go hand in hand, pretty much. So, um, I think we're in for a lot of change, and I think this year, um, for a lot of people, is a wake up call. Um, so,
Amen. To
yeah,
that too.
but I'd like to hear more about you and your journey.
Oh well, I mean, you know, it's. I was trying to evade that as long as
What's
possible.
your
You know,
mission? Why are you here?
well, you know, I've mentioned it before in an episode, so I might as well talk about it again. It's weird to talk about because sometimes people just really just just they don't want to consider it as even a possibility, and so it really hasn't had too much of a positive influence on my life. But let me try to do it short. I remember my incarnation. I remember where I was. I remember what I was doing when I decided to come here. I remember what was the instigating reason. I remember the planet that I went to before I came back to my home place, and it sounded a lot like the one that you described.
Yeah.
And I brought something back with me from there that I brought here. Actually, I remember my journey here, which took about a fraction of a second of a choice. You know, it wasn't some long journey. It was like, oh, okay, I'm coming here, and then like, just boom, I'm going through the roof, come down through the roof, and I see my mom
Wow.
pregnant with me.
Wow, that's
And
so crazy. No, but
yeah,
yeah.
I know, right? It's like, and then it was all a dream, of course. You know, it was a dream, and then I woke up. There's more to the story, of course.
Yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
more, way more, because it was a very vivid dream, if you want to call it that. But I mean, for me, it was like it was a memory that felt like I was experiencing it in the moment, and it was at least more vivid than I experienced life. You know, which is weird.
That's pretty awesome that you could even capture all of that. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how to explain it other than it's real. And if anything, maybe this is the dream.
So how did you get into like the whole starseed thing? I know that a lot of people have a hard time um believing that, and I think a lot of that has to do with like sci-fi, right? Like you see things on TV, you read it in books, and people associate that as imagination, which I think people are in for a huge, again, I'm going to use the word awakening, but a lot of stuff that people don't even know about that they're going to find out, and they're starting to see it too, right? But for you, how did you like um, get into all of that?
Whew. Okay, well, don't get me wrong. I am the most skeptical person you've ever met. Mars
Yeah,
in Virgo,
yeah.
total, totally, totally analytical
Mm-hmm.
to the max, and that has a lot to do with my life. And it's been a hard,
Yeah.
tough life. At a young age, I had to. My mother lost
Mm-hmm.
her sanity, and so I didn't understand any of that stuff. But I had to learn at a young age what it meant, and and to me, it meant avidly trying to find her through
Right.
rhythmic psychology, you know. And I guess in a way it might have been considered as running, but I reached back to my spiritual side when I went to go look for her a couple years ago, 2016, my
Okay.
traveling year too. And that was the same time I got into astrology. I did not believe in astrology. I hated the fact that it worked because I got a reading done.
I know.
And it was so dead
I
on coming
know.
from an app. The app could barely speak English at all, but it knew that I was going across seas to go look for my mother, who I was worried about. Yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
was too personal for me. So I studied the heck out of it until I figured out how it worked. And I believe I do got it figured, and it's pretty simple. Everything is
Totally.
consciousness, and
Totally.
so of course it works, right?
Yeah, I mean, I
Excuse me.
I didn't believe in astrology or any of that stuff either. You're talking like a South Node Virgo, right? Like Virgo. So like I
That's
was
right, huh?
literally my old life,
Yeah.
my old version of me was like the most logical, practical, grounded, like I need the facts, I need evidence. This is garbage. That was me. So yeah,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
totally resonate with that.
how is that for a North Node
Really, really
rising? That
hard.
is
Really, really hard. Like
I,
you would think it's easy to like just let go, right? Like, but no, I was always in the weeds and I was always like overthinking. And I don't mean to cut your story short because I want to get
no, not at all. No, please, no. I am
yeah.
totally relating, but you sound like a maxer version, like a triple times more than I got it. So it's like
Yeah, I was
it's
like,
funny.
I was always in my mind. Like, I have Jupiter in my first house in Gemini, so I'm always in my head and I'm always like thinking about thoughts, and then the questions become more questions. And so, like, yeah, hypochondria, like
Oh,
my old me when I was operating out of South Node was very much like worried about everything, like wanting to control everything. And yeah,
super
super. And I
OCD, yeah.
think like astrology opened up for me in 2012. That's like when I had like my major dark night of the soul. I really hit rock bottom around then because I wasn't happy with my life. Like I felt like there was more to my life and I couldn't figure out what that purpose was. I didn't know what my purpose was. And it started out with like the traditional monthly horoscopes, and then I also met this Australian astrologer through a forum online. This was actually in 2016 after my Philippines trip, and he told me that I needed
Mhm.
to do work around healing like my inner child. I had to do a lot of that work, and he thought that meditating would be a great start on top of the astrology. Um, and as I just started, like you, like when I started reading the astrology and reading about myself, I was just like, this is too creepy because it was just so,
Yeah,
yeah.
right.
Um, so learning to let go and to not worry was like such a challenge for me, to operate more out of the North Node in Pisces, which means like surrender and have faith. And you're a Pisces moon, so you probably speak the language like the back of your hand, but learning to just operate out of faith and trust on things that you can't necessarily control was a big lesson for me. And
That's a very powerful thing. And I can't say that
you
it's
know,
second nature to me, really. I would say that if anything, it's comforting
yeah,
hearing you
I
talk
mean,
about it.
I still have my days, right? Like I
Yeah.
still have my moments, especially this year in itself, like expecting things to happen at a certain time or rate. And it's not like I just have to remind myself that I'm doing the best I can, and we all are. So I got off topic, but
Yeah.
back to you. 2016 was your voyage period, your year of exploration.
Oh, yikes. I mean, like it was hard. It was really hard. I had spent a good amount of years away from my mom
Yeah,
and the memory of her, and I blamed the changed version of her for a lot of things that
you felt like
that was
you
my
were. Yeah, I was
conditioning,
gonna
that
say
it
you
was my
probably took
fault.
that on as like maybe it's me kind of thing, or maybe I. Yeah.
Well, there were some things that kind of I didn't.
No, I don't. I'm not
Okay,
saying it was
maybe
you.
it
I'm just
was.
saying like. No, oh,
No, no, no. I'm saying maybe it was. I in my memory. No, I didn't have that vision until years later, but maybe at a subconscious level. I see in my memory
mhm.
when I came down through the roof, and my mom was pregnant with me, and there was no way that I could have known that that they were where they were in the house that I grew up in for the first time, and there would be no furniture, no nothing in the whole
Right.
place. There's no way I could know that until later, but I did in my vision, and well, they she wasn't she wasn't alone. There was a line before me, as in
Oh,
there
really?
was three other entities. Uh, yeah, and they were not. Um, They were not pretty looking. And they were not happy to see me at all.
Wow.
And they attacked me, which is funny because in the physical realm, what was happening was my mom and dad had first walked into the house that they were gonna, get, and that they did get for the first time, and my mom's water broke, and it went through a whole trip for them going to the hospital stuff breaking, them finding out that they didn't have the facilities and having to fly me over to Oahu to another hospital, take me. Meanwhile, that receipt for the hospital bill somehow got punched in is 2 days before. Yeah, and then it took two doctors to birth me, and I almost died. I needed to be on an incubation thing, and I was a month early. And the funniest thing is about it all is I was born on the day the Gregorian calendar got put in place. October. I know, right?
God. Okay, wait. Let's segue for a second because I've been doing a lot of, and then this Australian psychologist astrologer that I was telling you about, who like made a lot of things clear for me. He said that most sensitive beings, right, like empaths, highly sensitive people, generally people who are just naturally like attuned to the senses, I guess you can call it, have some sort of traumatic birth, whether they're in the womb, just a gnarly like pregnancy that they had to go through, or the birth itself was traumatic. But my birth was also traumatic, so that's pretty crazy to hear your story, because I've talked to a few other people like us and they've also had pretty traumatic deliveries.
I believe we fought
That's
against
what happened.
beings over
how wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom, she had high blood pressure. I was 3 weeks early, actually. So it was like almost a month. And and that was an emergency C-section that she had, and it was like they didn't know if she was going to make it or if I was going to make it, kind of thing. But just hearing your story, like that makes a lot of sense why we feel so strongly, right? Like we're just so heightened. Like you said, we came out fighting in a way. I don't know. That's so wild. Wow.
I'd love to run your chart. I mean, I know you've shown me it, but I'm not used to that.
So I'm actually a month before you. I'm September 4th. Yeah. I'm September 4th, but I'm 1988. So I'm a year behind you.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. Gregorian time.
See, the Gregorian calendar sucks too, because that's not real.
I know, right? I recently heard about that, and I was like, I did my research into like the whole time frame.
They totally
oh my god, there's so much to it. Actually, before because I know we could go on for ages, and I definitely would love to do this again with you sometime.
Yeah.
You
I
really
like
know
this
your stuff.
I live and breathe it. This is me. Like, I'm too.
Yeah, you have a podcast. Amen. Yeah.
On there.
But sorry, to cut you off. I should go.
I do.
Besides the fact that you got my heart racing pretty hardcore. Yeah, and I am still kind of feeling under.
Well, go look at my chart and have fun with that. That's something you can do. But
yeah, thank you, Jade, and definitely I'd love to have you on so on whatever platform.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm still kind of camera shy. I'm working through that. Yeah, I'm super.
No.
But podcast, that's my jam right now. And I'm totally up for more recordings. So that'd be dope. Cool. Well, I hope you feel better.
Right on. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, me too.
Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bye for now. thank you for listening. This has been a very special show. It's been so long. I missed you. Did you miss me? I missed you too. Well, that's okay. I'll try to do more shows and make it up to you. And we could catch up. A lot's going on. A lot. Oh yeah, things are moving very fast. Because I am on a train. No, I'm not on a train. I'm actually just in my room. But no, when it comes to things like petitions and social movements and news about a certain virus and the discovery of what actually viruses are, which the discovery actually happened kind of 100 years ago during the Spanish flu, but nobody wanted to listen because everybody had the cut-loss fallacy. And yeah, well, I guess, all of the writing about it, well, it turned up. The schools of Rudolf Steiner, the Waldorf education schools, well, the professors there had something to say, but that's for another time. Please, stay tuned for the next episode. I am the Mystic Man, and you've been listening to SASS, Starseeds, Angels, Savant Syndrome. Uomao, Keea, Hokaina, Hikapono, O humanity.